just want to point out that we have a commitment of 24 lunches to be paid for by the club for those meetings. And our last couple of meetings were starting to fall a little short. So if you can make the time to come out to those meetings twice a month, it would be appreciated, and we can continue to have some live meetings. It's a great venue, and it's easy to get in and out. The food is box lunches. I think although we're going to have roast turkey and mashed potatoes and green beans and kind of a more Rotary-like luncheon out there on next week. So try to come out if you can. And remember that you can sign up online for that as well. So take a look at our website. Upcoming Rotary events, the last 2020 White Oaks Park cleanup is next Wednesday, the 21st at 6 p.m. So if you're interested and available, come on out for that. Rotary bell ringing is now getting on our calendar. The shifts will be all day Saturdays from November 14th to December 19th. Fred Schuler made a presentation last week about that, and you can register online via the link in the club's calendar. Just the last thing before we introduce program, I wanted to recap. We did have a service event yesterday at the Salvation Army for serving lunches to the day center over there. They had I guess you call it breakfast. It was pancakes, sausages, and a fruit cup. But so there are probably 100 people that are served. There were only two of us Rotarians, Christine Erke and myself. And so if you get a chance, look at our website and try to get over and sign up for that if you can. It's a very worthwhile cause, and they really appreciate any involvement that we can bring to them. I might point out too that we donate leftover lunches to that Wednesday program for it's actually any time during the day, because they have that lunch every day. We donate those to the Salvation Army, so they don't go wasted if we do have leftovers. But the club is paying for them, so keep that in mind. So I guess we're ready. Elizabeth, can we just transition into this? Okay. The program today is provided by Chad Campbell, who is the CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Rochester, where he's served as the executive director, the CEO, since summer of 2018. He's been southeastern Minnesota for 10 years and in Rochester for 5 years, serving in roles with Good Earth Village and United Way of Olmsted County. He studied theater at Wayne State University and holds a master's degree in public administration with an emphasis on nonprofit management from the University of South Florida. He lives with his wife, Jennifer, 3 children, Natalie, Ryan, and Knox, and 2 dogs, Scooter and May. In his free time, he can be found running the bike paths of Rochester, probably with Mike Wojak, and volunteering with local theaters or serving on some committee or another. So I'd like to welcome Chad Campbell to our speaker today. Chad?
Thank you very much. I sure appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to present and to be with you all today. Certainly grateful for that. I'm at home in my home office, as it were, with a few kids distance learning, although they've got a little bit of a break because of MEA today. And so I put on my headphones because the volume on the other side of that door was getting a little louder than I wanted it to. So if that becomes disruptive, I apologize in advance. Just by way of, where am I? Here we go. A quick introduction. I'm Chad Campbell. I'm CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Rochester. I grew up outside of Detroit, Michigan. I have lived in Chicago, Tampa, Spring Valley, Minnesota, and then here in Rochester. Started my career in nonprofits in Florida, where I got my graduate degree in public administration, nonprofit management, and I was previously the executive director at Good Earth Village in Spring Valley, and then worked a few years with United Way of Homestead County when I moved to Rochester. And I've been with Boys and Girls Club now just over 2 years. I'm married. My wife, Jen, is an assistant principal with Rochester Public Schools. My 3 kids are 12, 8, and 8. All 3 in the public school system, and going through various sorts of distance learning right now. So every day is an adventure. As the introduction stated, I spend a lot of my time running or participating in community theater things, or looking at unfolded piles of laundry, which I don't think you can see just below my waist. So I want to start out today with a timely story. 2 years ago, there was a kid who on MEA weekend had an unexpected experience. So MEA weekend, of course, today, tomorrow, it's basically a holiday. We get a long weekend. We get to do what we do on long weekends. Maybe it's that last trip to the cabin up north before winter, or maybe a little trip out of town. But for this family, they don't have the opportunity to take vacations at MEA. Working hourly shift work, mom has to be at work over the holiday break, and so Thursday morning comes around, and little boy gets up, gets ready for school, walks himself to school, and walks in the front door and finds, well, there's a whole lot less traffic than what he had been anticipating. And the principal, fortunately, was in the office and came out and found a pair of eyes and a backpack staring up at her, and said, "Hey, what's going on, buddy?" And the kid looks up and says, "Where is everybody?" And at that point, obviously, it sinks in. Principal realizes that this kid didn't realize there was no school today. Says, "Oh, buddy, there's no school today and tomorrow." And the kid kind of hangs his head a little bit after having gone through all this to get to school, and says, "Well, what am I supposed to do?" So long story short, they call home. They were able to get a hold of mom, who had been in bed still because the prior night she had worked the overnight shift, and she was sleeping and getting ready for her next shift to work day shift at 10 o'clock that morning. So she had to get up and start getting ready. And so they're trying to figure out, what do we do with this kid? He's now gotten himself up on time for school, got ready, walked to school on his own. But now if we send him back home, he's got to make himself breakfast and get through a day at home alone, maybe watch TV or play some video games or something, make himself lunch. What are we going to do with this kid? Well, luckily they were able to get in touch with us at Boys and Girls Club, and we were able to get him successfully and safely over to club to spend the day with us, so he had a safe and healthy place to be for the day. See, this is exactly the kind of thing that our community needs: a place for kids to be safely and successfully. I'll come back to that in a little while. By way of history, some of you, I think, were involved in some of this. 20 years ago, a group of committed and passionate leaders in our community made this happen from nothing. Sharon Tuntland and Andy Schifolius and Barbara Jordan and Jose Rivas and a whole bunch of other people whose names I'm definitely omitting right now, They worked with community leaders, with donors, with youth development experts, and with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America to get this organization off the ground. It started in late 1999. Services began in February of 2000 with the mission to empower all young people, especially those who need us most, to realize their full potential as productive, responsible, and caring community members. What that means is doing whatever it takes to make kids successful. Whatever it takes: recreation, mentoring, academic help, dancing, food supports, talent shows, mental health supports, basketball, social work, access to technology, distance learning help, whatever it takes to make this child successful. So they purchased home school from the Rochester Public Schools in 2002, and they located Club at that location, our current location, around 2003. In 2012, major renovation began at the place, constructing what you see on the screen there, a 55,000 square foot facility shared by Boys and Girls Club and Head Start ever since then. Rochester's population has been growing. Have you noticed? Over the past decade, it's been growing at a pace above 20%. And that projects to continue for decades. And the state in that same period is closer to about 8%. In our community, 39% of children are eligible for free and reduced price lunches. That's around 6,000 kids or so. Put a mental tag on that number. Significant projected growth will continue to increase the population of low-income households. There are currently over 400 homeless kids in Rochester. And living in a highly educated state, in a highly educated city within that state, we have 24% child poverty. 40% of kids in Rochester report having no caring adult relationship. 37% report lacking access to enrichment activities. 23% report a household income below $35,000. And I won't describe the complexity of this little slide, but what this shows is that in a state, in a nation with noted racial disparities in incomes, Minnesota stands out above the nation in terms of disparity, and Olmsted County above the state of Minnesota. Meaning, here in Olmsted County, we have significant racial disparities that outpace both our state and our nation. So within that context, as I've described, at Boys and Girls Club of Rochester, our kids are 91% qualify for free and reduced price lunches. 74% are non-white. 50% live in single parent households. 36, in the neighborhood in which we serve, there's 36% child poverty. And in our neighborhood, in this highly educated city, 13% of adults have degrees. Now, you remember I gave you that around 6,000 number for kids eligible for free and reduced price lunch. Here it is again. Low-income kids in Rochester, around 5,900. Our capacity to serve kids on a daily basis at the place, about 120. The kids we're currently reaching, about 110 or so. So we're pretty much at capacity at Boys and Girls Club. And as you can see, we're making a very small dent in the total need in our community. The need in our community far outpaces our ability to serve. So what do we do as a community for these other 5,800 kids? At Boys and Girls Club, we're doing youth development programming for the kids who need us most. That's what we do. So that means caring adults and relationships layered in with academic supports and healthy lifestyles, character development programming, arts and cultural programming. We're a part of a national network, but we're locally led and locally operated. We serve hundreds of youth annually. As I mentioned, about 110 to 120 on any given day. That impacts over 200 families last year. We're open in a normal year. We're open over 1,700 hours per year, after school every day during the school year and all day during the summer. This year has been exceptional as we're open much more this fall as we support distance learning. After school programming and summer programming is for kids ages 5 through 18. We serve out of our cafeteria, we serve tens of thousands of meals annually at no cost to the kids. And we do all this with a kind of a mix of structured, unstructured, and semi-structured programming. The idea is we want to be safe, we want to be fun, we want to provide supportive relationships and opportunities and expectations for kids. We want to give them recognition and make them feel good about when they accomplish things. And we want to give them free choices. We want to give them agency over the way they spend their time and over the things that they pursue. And that, along with all that, we provide certain mandatory programs to make sure that we're accomplishing goals around academic support in particular, but also around healthy living and character development. So I mentioned I've been with Boys and Girls Club about 2 years. And when I first started, I learned an important thing about Boys and Girls Club that I did not know. And that's that we love to do talent shows. So our kids are really into arts in a variety of ways, dance in particular, as you can see from my little video clip. What I didn't know, and that I learned very quickly, my 4th day on the job was our end of the school year talent show. And I attended expecting what you would predict from an elementary school aged talent show, mostly kids from our K through 5 age groups. And they sang songs, they danced, they recited poems, they did little skits, and it was what you would expect it to be. There were some really incredible performances from kids who have talent far beyond their age. And there were also some really brave performances from kids who really got up a lot of courage and gumption to get on stage in front of a crowd full of people. But what was most striking and what I learned most emphatically was that no matter what kind of performance came before it, at the end of that performance, what you'd see is every single kid in that gym pouring off the bleachers down onto the floor to congratulate and celebrate with the kid who had just performed. The support that they were providing for one another was like nothing I've ever seen. It was absolutely incredible. Hundreds of kids jumping up and down, screaming at the top of their lungs to say, "Great job," and to affirm and support their family, really, because that's what these kids have created for themselves, is a second family that they can see away from home. And this is exactly the kind of community that kids need. Kids like Derek and Fatima and Sydney and Alicia, they need a family away from home. So here comes the addendum to my usual presentation, the COVID-19 caveats, because there's been a lot going on. So I'll give you a brief timeline of what's been going on for us at Club. Back in March, on March 17th, we had our last day of after-school programming. which still seems like an indefinite answer. We don't know when we'll be back to after school programming. On March 30th, we launched Virtual Club, and we started providing online programming for all our kids. April remained all virtual, and May remained all virtual as we tried to get our arms around what was going on with this pandemic. And then in June, on June 15th, we opened our club back up for in-person programming for our first day of summer. And we continued virtual programming throughout the summer. July, we continued both in-person and virtual, and through into August, when we ended our summer program on August 21st, so we could get ready for the school season. And then on September 28th, we opened our Distance Learning Center. Fortunately, we were able to work with several partners in the community to get a distance learning center up and running at the Civic Center. So beginning September 28th, we've been serving kids 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day, supporting them with their distance learning needs, providing them with some guidance and tutoring, some mentoring, physical activities as well, and enrichment activities to keep them engaged each day for kids kindergarten through 12th grade. We're serving about 65 families right now, and working with several partners in the community, including Next Chapter Ministries, Sports Mentorship Academy, the YMCA, Family Service Rochester, and the PACE and HOPE programs from Olmsted County, and the Rochester Arts Center to put together programming that serves kids' needs all across the board. We're providing all-day care, distance learning support, free technology access, whether that's, we've got Wi-Fi, we've got laptops and devices to lend out, working on getting some Wi-Fi hotspots that we can lend out to families, providing 3 meals a day, and working with several other partners, and there's a couple other partnerships who may be interested in getting involved as well. Some interesting logistics though. In order to do that, we've needed a location, the Civic Center. We've needed to provide meals. We've had to quadruple our staffing because we've needed to, for COVID-19 protocols, we've needed to double our ratios, and we're serving twice as many hours as we normally would. Needed to purchase technology, disinfectant, PPE, supplies. And we've engaged a number of funders, including Mayo Clinic, the City of Rochester, Connected Minnesota, but that still leaves between now and December 31st a $90,000 funding gap to be able to make this distance learning program successful. So it's been a real adventure. There's been a lot going on these last 6 months, but it's been my conviction all along that Boys and Girls Club of Rochester stands prepared and ready to serve in whatever way the community calls on. And I think more importantly, our community has made itself flexible and responsive to the needs as they arise. And I think consistently we've stepped up time and again, and we've been ready to serve, and I believe that our community will continue to do so. So I'll leave it there and turn it over for if you've got any questions or comments or anything you'd like to discuss. Elizabeth, I've never been the host of one of these things before. Is there anything more I need to do? I guess stop my screen share or something like that, yes?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are, yep.
Yes, okay. If you want to, you're back to just the whole group.
All right, it's just me, all right.
So I guess we're open for questions. If you have a question, you want to unmute yourself and ask the question. Steve?
Question, if Chad could maybe elaborate a little bit about what the collaboration is with the Y.
Okay, I'll repeat that. You probably can't hear it. Steve Sponsel asked, what is the collaboration between Boys and Girls Club and the Y?
Yeah, Great question. The Y has been involved from the beginning. We've been talking. In fact, before we even got this up and running, the Y started convening a small group of us, including Boys and Girls Club, to start talking about how we can best serve, in particular, teenagers during this time. And so YMCA is interested in. They haven't begun programming yet in the space, and hopefully they'll be doing so in the next couple of weeks. But they're interested in partnering with us and having both our teen program and their teen program operate concurrently and complement one another. But they're also wanting to make recreation space available for kids at the Distance Learning Center to come over and do recreation at the Y during the course of their distance learning day.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yep, Colin has a question.
He threw out a lot of statistics earlier on. I maybe didn't catch all of them, but he talked about 13% of neighborhood. And can you maybe just clarify when he's talked about 13% something of our neighborhood?
Of our
So
neighborhood.
he's talking about
Yep.
Rochester, the neighborhood he lives in, or just, I didn't quite get that piece.
Okay, if I can clarify or explain what I understand the question to be. Colin's asking, you threw out many statistics kind of at the beginning, and you talked about a 13% of quote unquote your neighborhood. And could you clarify what that actually means?
Yeah, it's in the neighborhood surrounding Boys and Girls Club where we're at. So we're at the corner of Center Street and 11th Avenue East. And I believe that's it's the voting district that's being described there. We pull that information from census figures, and I believe it came from the voting district.
All right, other questions?
Yeah, the funding for the program at the Mayo Civic Center, how's that being funded?
The funding for the program at Mayo Civic, I assume it's through the virus relief program, but what is the funding mechanism? Is it through CARES? Is that what's funding it?
Yeah, so right now we've got three primary funders, the City of Rochester, and those funds came through CARES money. Yes, that's the primary, and then Mayo Clinic has made a contribution to help cover some of the gap. We got a foundation grant from an organization called Connected Minnesota to help us cover the cost of purchasing some technology. And then, as I mentioned, there remains a gap that we're still trying to cover.
And that CARES funding probably expires at the end of 2020, if I understand it right. So you're after that. The question is, Elizabeth asked, is there a specific program or idea that you could share that Rotarians could help with some of this online or mentoring for students that you could share with us?
Yeah, good question. So the main thing that we're trying to work out, and we're having a real hard time with it so far, is we're trying to work out opportunities for online tutoring. You can imagine that it starts to get a little bit tricky when you start trying to figure out how you can manage safety protocols and not allowing somebody to be one-on-one with an adult that they don't know. So figuring out how do we manage all of that. We haven't cracked that nut yet, but that's the main thing that I think we're going to be able to do. We're not currently allowing volunteers to come into the space in order to reduce exposure risks. But beyond that, I think, helping to provide some background support. There are things, we've got little projects. This might not be a group project, but some little things around IT setup. So if we've got people who have some skills and some time to be able to offer with setting up laptops, that's a project that's a little bit tedious, but can be real helpful for us. And donating supplies and materials. So we're always in need of more craft supplies. And actually right now, it doesn't hurt if we get donations of additional masks that we can then lend out when kids forget to bring their own.
Chris?
Yes. Audrey has a question.
Yeah, does Chad know about the library buying brain fuse?
Chad, are you familiar with the library's Brain Fuse program?
Yeah, I just learned about that a couple of days ago, and we're excited because I think that we will be able to use that. It only overlaps our hours by a little bit because it opens at 2 p.m. But I think particularly our secondary students will find that valuable.
Because if we need help getting kids library cards, let me know.
So
Yeah,
oh, you did hear that. Okay.
I heard that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
We did think that might be an obstacle for some of our kids, and so I'll connect with you, Audrey, to get that sorted out.
Very good.
Maybe tell all of us what that is.
Oh,
Brain.
Yeah, Audrey's going to explain what Brain Fuse is to in
Fuse
simple language now. Come on.
Is an online tutoring program. Anybody with a library card can go in and get online tutoring help from 2 p.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. And you're connected with tutors from all over the country. It's in English and Spanish.
Mm-hmm. And if I understand it right, it's also safe in terms of qualifying, so you don't have the problem you mentioned of the danger of one-on-one situation. It's anonymous, basically.
Right.
Yeah. On that same theme, the relationship with the Rochester Public Schools and how that all interfaces, because that's a pretty big sharing of people and certainly students and programs. Where are you with that under the current circumstances?
Yeah, they've been very helpful. You know, obviously at this point we're only a few weeks in, so it's been a fairly ad hoc connection. But when we've had, you know, for example, one of the things that comes up, just to give people an insight into distance learning if they haven't been a part of it. Every kid's got an online account with Google Classroom. And so if they've got a Rochester Public Schools device, then when they bring that, it's already ready to log in, and that comes pretty easily. But if they don't have that device, then when they get there, they're going to borrow one of ours, and we need to find out, okay, well, now we need your login credentials. We need to know what time your class meetings are so we can set those things up and make sure that we're ready for you. All the logistics that go around that. And we've been able to, in every case, whenever we've got a question, we've been able to contact the school principals or their office when a situation comes up, and they've been very helpful in helping us get their kids connected and ready to learn. That's been very successful. And we're eager to hear from Rochester Public Schools tomorrow about what we're doing next, if we're going to continue on the current learning model or if we're updating or what.
Yeah, it's always a moving target these days. Sure.
Yeah.
Other questions? Anybody else? Pardon me?
Are there any questions in the chat room?
Apparently that haven't been covered. I think they're covered. Anybody else?
I got one.
Going once? Colin, okay.
In the past, it seems to me there's been a community day actually in their site. I've gone to a breakfast, I'm sure that's not, but I'm doing something in lieu of that.
Are you doing anything in lieu of Community Day that apparently has been traditional at the site? Obviously, you can't do that right now, but is there something similar online that you're able to provide?
Well, we're trying to take some of our things online. Some things some of our events are simply not going to happen during the pandemic, and then some things are going online. So an example would be we chose for a variety of reasons not to hold a national night out picnic, which we have often done back at the club this year. However, we also typically we have our November Heroes Breakfast where we get everybody together and do a little celebration of those people and organizations that have supported us in the past year. This year, rather than holding that event in the normal way, we're going to do some online broadcasts. Possibly, it sounds like some television broadcasts, and then you know, there may be some opportunities for people to interface more individually in person during that day. But the bulk of things are going to go online for that. So we're kind of taking things on a case-by-case basis right now, trying to avoid bringing lots of people together, but trying to also still provide some sense of continuity with what people expect from us.
Right. I know for myself that my former partner Jose Rivas was instrumental early on in getting the club in working with the Tuntlins and Barbara Jordan and people like that as they put together. It's been and I know the Heroes Breakfast has always been kind of a fun event for those of us who were asked to contribute money as well as resources to the project. So if any members have any questions about donation of materials or time or any of these suggestions you had of IT setup and those kind of things, they, I assume, can just call the Boys and Girls Club and they'll be directed to somebody that can help direct that question. Did I lose Chad?
He looks like he's frozen.
Can you hear me, Chad? No.
I will touch base with him and we'll get.
Okay. All right. Well, and so I'm not able to thank him. Is he trying to get back on here? Well, I will in that absence, I'll thank Chad for the presentation, and I'm assuming that because Boys and Girls Club is one of the 5 clubs or organizations that we offer an honorarium for our speaker, that he will opt for that contribution in his name to the Boys and Girls Club. So is there anything else for the good of the club that I should bring up? Otherwise, I will. Chad's back. Oh, you're back. Okay.
Yeah, my apologies. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Well, I just thank you in absentia for the presentation, and in honor of your presenting to us today, we make an honorarium in your name to the Boys and Girls Club, and we want to thank you very much. So if there's anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, remember that as we adjourn, go and serve, and remember that Rotary opens opportunities. We are adjourned.